The airport buzzed with the usual noise, rolling suitcases, crying children, muffled announcements, but for Emily Carter, it all felt distant. She clutched her boarding pass and exhaled quietly, her shoulders heavy with exhaustion. After spending a month volunteering at a disaster relief center, the trauma nurse was finally heading home. Her scrubs were replaced by a plain hoodie and jeans, and though her eyes showed fatigue, there was something calm about her, a steady resilience that most wouldn't notice at a glance. At gate 37, passengers gathered impatiently, tapping phones, sipping overpriced coffee, or arguing over carry-ons. Emily said little, offering a polite nod here and there, quietly helping a man pick up a dropped passport without being asked. When her group was called, she boarded without fuss, sliding into seat 17A. The window seat. Her favorite. As the plane filled, strangers squeezed past her, stowing bags, complaining about the delay. A teenager loudly protested being separated from his friend. A businessman barked into his phone about a missed meeting. Emily just stared out the window, watching raindrops bead and trail across the glass. No one around her knew where she'd been. No one knew about the lives she'd tried to save, the mothers she held as they wept, the little boy who didn't make it. She carried those memories with quiet grace, packed somewhere deeper than her small carry-on. To the world, she was just another passenger on Flight 228. A tired woman with tired eyes. But fate had something different planned. In a few hours, the plane would face a crisis no one expected. And when the unthinkable happened, it wouldn't be the uniformed crew or seasoned travelers who would step forward. It would be the woman in 17A, the one no one noticed. Until it mattered most. At 36,000 feet, the cabin lights flickered as turbulence jolted the plane. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the passengers. Until the second jolt hit harder, and trays rattled to the floor. A baby cried out. Drinks spilled. Then, with a sudden, sickening lurch, the aircraft dipped. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. Screams erupted. Panic gripped the cabin like a vice. The once routine flight had veered into chaos. In the cockpit, the captain clutched his chest mid-sentence and slumped forward against the controls. The co-pilot turned, eyes wide. "Captain," he shouted, shaking his shoulder. No response. With trembling hands, the co-pilot grabbed the radio. "Mayday, Mayday, Flight 228, we have a medical emergency. Captain is down. Requesting immediate diversion." And then, mid-call, his voice faltered. He leaned against the panel, his face going pale. His hand dropped from the controls. Moments later, he collapsed beside the captain. Silence fell in the cockpit, except for the blaring alarms. Back in the cabin, flight attendants huddled in confusion, unsure what to do. The plane began a shallow, uncontrolled descent. Passengers held hands, some weeping, others whispering prayers. A teenage boy tried to text his mom. An elderly woman clutched her husband's arm, whispering, "Is this how it ends?" In the chaos, one woman's eyes scanned the crew, the passengers, and the front of the plane. Emily Carter felt the fear too, but it didn't paralyze her. Her trauma training kicked in. She unbuckled her seatbelt, steadied herself against the shaking walls, and moved forward, toward the cockpit. No one noticed her at first. They were too consumed by panic. But soon, heads turned. The woman from 17A was walking toward the controls. The crew was frozen. The pilots were down. And hope? It was wearing a hoodie, and moving fast. Emily pushed open the cockpit door, her heart pounding but her hands steady. The sight before her was chilling, both pilots slumped over, motionless, alarms shrieking from every panel. Without hesitation, she knelt beside the co-pilot and checked his pulse. Faint. Fading. She tilted his head, cleared his airway, and began CPR with the precision of someone who had done this countless times before. Behind her, the cabin remained in disarray, people crying, praying, whispering final words. But in that small, dimly lit cockpit, Emily created a circle of calm. After 2 cycles, the co-pilot gasped, sputtering back to life. She placed an oxygen mask over his face, gently securing it before turning to the radio. "Mayday, this is Flight 228, she said, her voice firm, clear. "Both pilots are incapacitated. One is unconscious. I have limited flying experience. Please advise." There was a stunned pause on the other end. Then a voice crackled through. "Can you identify yourself?" "My name is Emily Carter. I'm a trauma nurse. And I've flown simulators with my father, he was Air Force. That's all I've got." Another pause. Then, "Emily, we'll guide you down. Stay calm. You've got this." She slid into the captain's seat, fingers brushing controls that felt strangely familiar. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, "Altitude first. Then attitude. Don't fight the plane, feel it." Her hands moved with surprising confidence. Back at the control tower, a stunned supervisor whispered to a colleague, "She's not even a pilot." The response came, calm and resolute, through the headset. "Not today." And with that, Emily took hold, not just of the yoke, but of every life on board. The runway was still miles away, but for everyone on board Flight 228, it already felt like the final moments of their lives. The cabin had fallen into a hushed, reverent silence. No more screams. No more panic. Just a quiet, collective breath held in suspense. Emily sat in the captain's seat, sweat beading on her brow, her fingers wrapped tightly around the yoke. Every instruction from air traffic control was etched into her brain, guiding her one step at a time. Adjust the flaps, decrease throttle, align with the glide path. The co-pilot, still conscious but too weak to assist, gave her a faint nod of support. Behind her, the cabin crew had rallied. One flight attendant, eyes glassy with fear, reached forward and gently touched Emily's shoulder. "You're not alone," she whispered. A child's voice broke the stillness. "You're my hero," said a little girl, peeking from her seat. That single sentence struck deeper than anything else. Emily didn't turn, she couldn't afford to, but her chest tightened, her heart steadied. Not from pressure, but from purpose. The aircraft began its final descent. The city lights below grew closer, brighter. Her hands trembled, but her grip didn't falter. Every life behind her was counting on a woman who, just hours ago, had been invisible. Now, they watched her in awe, in prayer, in unity. Some clasped hands. Others whispered words of faith. No one looked away. As the landing gear locked into place with a mechanical thud, the controller's voice came through again, "You're on target. You're doing great." Emily exhaled slowly. The ground rose to meet her. In that moment, it wasn't just a plane descending, it was humanity, lifted by the quiet courage of one soul, returning safely to Earth. The wheel struck the tarmac with a jarring thud, jolting everyone in their seats. The plane bounced once, then steadied, tires screeching as it sped down the runway. A collective gasp rippled through the cabin, followed by stunned silence. And then, cheers erupted. Applause, sobs, laughter. Strangers hugged. Tears streamed down cheeks, not from fear anymore, but from the overwhelming relief of survival. Emergency vehicles raced alongside the aircraft, red and blue lights flashing across the windows. But inside, all eyes remained fixed on the cockpit door, waiting, wondering, desperate to see the woman who had become their unlikely captain. Emily sat motionless for a moment, her hands still gripping the yoke. She could barely believe it herself. Her whole body trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what she'd just done. Slowly, she stood. As she stepped out of the cockpit, the cabin erupted again, this time with pure gratitude. She moved quietly through the aisle, passengers reaching out just to touch her arm, to say thank you, to cry in her presence. When the doors opened, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted her name. But Emily didn't pose or speak. She walked down the steps, head low, eyes soft. A retired pilot, watching from behind the safety barricade, removed his hat and stepped forward. "You saved more than lives today," he said. "You gave people hope." In the days that followed, Emily's face was everywhere. Headlines called her a hero, a miracle, a modern-day legend. But when asked, she only smiled and said, "I just did what needed to be done." Because for her, it was never about glory. It was about humanity. Heroes aren't born in uniforms, they rise in moments when the world needs them most. In the sky that day, Flight 228 became more than just a routine journey, it became a testament to the extraordinary power hidden within ordinary people. Emily Carter, a soft-spoken nurse, boarded as a weary passenger and left as a symbol of quiet courage and selfless resolve. She didn't wear a badge, a uniform, or carry authority. What she carried was something far more powerful: compassion, clarity under pressure, and the instinct to act when everyone else froze. From a chaotic mid-air crisis to a shaky but safe landing, Emily reminded the world that real heroes don't always announce themselves. Sometimes, they sit in row 17, unnoticed, until the moment comes when everything is on the line. This story isn't just about surviving the impossible. It's about rediscovering faith in humanity, about how, in our darkest hours, one person's bravery can ignite hope in hundreds. Emily didn't seek the spotlight. She simply rose when the world needed her most. And maybe that's the lesson we all need. In a world full of uncertainty, kindness and courage still fly highest.